evening and welcome to yet another brilliant edition of Atlantic Television Press Roundtable. On this program, we always bring you up to speed with what is trending in the polity in the last 24 hours. And Press Roundtable is a gathering of press men, we're talking about media professionals, journalists, who come here to give in-depth perspectives and balance to some of the stories that trend during the day. So, we are ready for you today. Let's look at some of the headlines. Cross River State government to spend $5 billion for renovation of governor's office. And from the Central Bank comes a report that President Tinubu nominates Cardoso as governor. List of 4 deputies, FG, ex-NERC boss says law school should be scrapped. And from Yobe comes a report that the army arrests 12 suspected Boko Haram terrorists. On the state, Obasanjo urges Nigerian leaders to embrace democracy. Debt Management Office says Nigeria's debt has gone up by 75% in 3 months. Is 87 trillion. These are some of the headlines that we're going to rub minds with this evening. My name is Brown Woke. I'm sure you're watching us on our various social media platforms. Our mobile app live on YouTube, Facebook, Atlantic Television Network. It is no other program than Press Roundtable. When we come back, I will introduce my guest in today's program, a professional journalist. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. We'll be with you, don't get away.
Are you a broadcaster, content creator, content distributor, or a media practitioner seeking opportunities to amplify your creativity and expand your network? Then join us at the 13th edition of Africast. Africast 2023 offers participants the opportunity to experience 3 days of world-class exposition through plenaries, streamings, master classes, and workshops showcasing the very best in creativity and technological advancements in the global broadcast and media ecosystem. Theme: broadcast content, synergy, finance, and market. Date: Tuesday the 24th of October to Thursday the 26th of October 2023. Venue: Marriott Hotel, Ikeja, Lagos, Nigeria. For more inquiries, visit www.africast.com.ng. NBC, your right to quality broadcasting.
welcome back to the program Atlantic Television Press Roundtable, coming to you live here in the Garden City. Of course, you know that Atlantic Television Press Roundtable comes to you Monday to Friday, every day, and comes to you from 7 to 8 p.m. Today's last edition for this week. Well, I have here in the studio Kingsley Izejobi. I hope I got the name right.
Kingsley Izejobi.
Izejobi.
Yes.
That must be a Delta name. You're welcome.
No, I'm not from Delta State. I'm actually from Imo State.
Imo State. It sounds like a Delta name. Okay. You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Kingsley is a professional broadcast journalist with Radio Nigeria, and is one of the friends of the house, I would say. Well, let's look at some of the stories in details. Governor Basso II of Cross River State has confirmed that he will spend 5 billion naira to refurbish the governor's office in Calabar to befit his status. He disclosed this during an interaction with journalists, saying such an office ought to be the signpost of the state. He said he will also renovate all the state liaison offices in Abuja, Lagos, and elsewhere to similarly carry the same signpost insignia. The governor stated that the state he met, the governor's office, was not befitting, and that renovating it to befitting standard can help to appeal to investors willing to do business with the state. He further stated that the renovations will be done with transparency. It's estimated that the cost of the renovation will be between 3 to 5 billion naira. Part of the way, they say, hitting the ground running. This one has started by renovation. The amount of money.
Well, it's actually funny to me.
5 billion. And you know that there's always this tradition of people, when you go into an office, become a commissioner, all that, some monies are voted for you to refurbish your office, and sometimes they are marked up. This case looks scandalous, doesn't it?
That's why I say it actually looks funny to me that for a state like Cross River State, that we are all here, we all saw the immediate past governor of Cross River State, Professor Ben Ayade, at one point, weeping on national TV, saying that he didn't know that that he has a huge number of poor people in the state. That he didn't know that after 3 years of his administration, after 7 years of his administration, the kind of impact he wanted to make, that he would not be able to make them. So he was crying on the national TV. So that supposes that there is a whole lot of job to be done in Cross River State. So for this new governor to come in to want to begin by voting as much as 3 billion to 5 billion naira to renovate governor's office, to me, it's a sign of a governor who does not know what exactly he was voted into office to. How will a beautiful governor's office attract investors in the first place? A governor's office is beautiful if the policies and programs that are coming out of that office is also beautiful. You know, you can't just come to a state that is malnourished. The flood is around the corner, and the state is a prime state that is also due to be affected.
Yeah.
And then the subsidy removal is there. 5 billion has been shared to all the states. I don't know whether it is the 5 billion that was given to the Cross River State government that is being diverted now into renovation.
No, they gave them 2 billion.
Okay. Whether it is that money that is being diverted into renovation of governor's office. So if I'm to advise that governor, I want to advise him to vote that 3 billion or 5 billion, as case may be, into things that would turn around the life of people of Cross River State. If the people of Cross River State are well fed, if the people of Cross River State are employed, if the people of Cross River State are well secured, the governor's office will look beautiful. It doesn't matter whether it is a skyscraper or a caravan. That is not important. What is important is that if the people are comfortable in that state, the beauty of that governor's office will come out. But if the people are not comfortable in that state, whatever you put in governor's office in the name of renovation of governor's office will not actually make any sense. So I want to advise Governor too to retract his step, to retrace his step, because that is actually, as far as I'm concerned, that's a waste of money. As far as I'm concerned, yes, it is important that when you get into an office, you want to make it look like what you want to work with and things like that. I agree. But 5 billion naira to renovate governor's office. So the question is, are you not saying that your predecessor was working from an office that is not befitting of a governor? that what they are saying?
And what manner of
And
renovation?
what manner of renovation are you going to do that will go up as much as 5?
Exactly.
Much as
Because
5
I
billion
thought
naira?
that the problem with Nigeria today is the scourge of poverty, the scourge of inflation, and the need to actually bring some palliatives, add some, pep to the left of Nigerians who are groaning under the weight of removal of sales subsidy,
Yes.
high cost of food in the
Yes.
market, and all that. So, and poor health facilities,
Yes.
education. So if there's going to be anything that will warrant an emergency,
Yes.
it shouldn't be government house.
It shouldn't be government house. You see, that's why I say Nigerian politicians, many of Nigerian politicians actually have this penchant for chasing shadows and living substance. You have a country where people are more than 60% of Nigerians are hungry, and Cross River State is not exempted from this. And then you are ready to vote. If you vote 5 billion naira for human capital development, if you vote 5 billion naira for job creation, in fact, if you take 5 billion naira and share it amongst the tertiary health institutions in the state, the university and college of education in the state, and ask that in the next 1 year, no student should pay any tuition fee. Nobody goes to the government hospital and pay any money. You would have done a lot than to use 5 billion naira to renovate governor's office. And I can bet you also that in actual fact, that money that is voted for renovation of governor's office, between 20 and 30% of it will not actually go into the renovation of that governor's office.
That is the point. So I think that the right priorities should be given to project development.
Absolutely.
And if you are to renovate government houses, that is both Lagos, Abuja, and it shouldn't be to that tune. It should be something that is done gradually. Maybe you paint that of Calabar, and then later on spread it through the period.
And it should not be done when there are more serious
Pressing issues.
There are more serious issues than renovation of governor's office.
Let's look at the next story. What was the story? President Tinubu nominates Cardoso as governor, names 4 deputies. President Bola Tinubu has approved the nomination of Dr. Olayemi Cardoso as the new governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria for a term of 5 years at the first instance, pending his confirmation by the Senate. It's a breaking news. Can say I didn't take much of that story. Now, in another nomination.
Yes, I think, well, the man that has just been nominated, from what we are seeing, is has been into the banking system. He was a member of the Citibank Alliance and what have you. So he's a man that has a lot of background in terms of public policy, in terms of economic analysis and things like that. So he's a man that, from the look of things, he has a good understanding of how financial sector works. He was the commissioner for economic planning and policy when the current president was governor of Lagos State. So let us see what he will bring to the table. But then again, a lot of people also see that it looks like we are now going into Oduduwa Republic, because if you look at the appointments so far, the Southwest seem to be taking the largest chunk of most of the appointments. Juicy appointments. So one begins to wonder, does it have to do with the fact that the president is from the Southwest, and so all the juicy appointments must go to that region of the country? And if that is the case, I think that is not the right way to begin. For a president who pledged to renew hope, for a president who pledged to unite Nigeria, for a president who pledged to fight corruption and make Nigeria the envy of all African nations, and in fact, and the envy of the world, I think that the president should also match his words with action. The action that the president has taken so far, as far as appointments are concerned, looks lopsided. And this is another testament of the fact that the president is not carrying all the parts of the country along in terms of appointment into critical office. So I would advise the president to also watch that, so that it doesn't become, so that it will not be recorded for him as being a tribal bigot or being nepotistic in his action. But all the same, Nigeria does not actually need an Igbo man or Hausa man or Yoruba man to be the central bank governor. What we need is a man who understands how the financial sector works, a man who understands the importance of that office, a man who understands how Nigerians can benefit well from the policies that will come out from the central bank. We all saw what happened when there was the Naira redesign and Naira change policy. Also, how Nigerians were subjected into a kind of serious pains and agony, whereby the central bank governor embarked on, supposedly got the approval of the then president, got into a Naira redesign policy, and then he was not able to follow it through. He was not prepared for the jabs that will come from the political class who may be hiding some of this money somewhere. He was not prepared for it. So the next thing you hear that, oh, that policy has been jettisoned and then we're back to where we are. So I want to believe that this man that had been appointed should be a man who has what it takes to galvanize the financial sector in this country. From the little background I have read about him, he has not had a big platform like that of central bank. Yes, he was. Yes, he was the chairman of Citibank. Yes, but that's a far lower office than the central bank governor in Nigeria. Yes, he has had a lot of trainings abroad. I agree, but then there is a difference between what you do in classroom and then the actual practice. He was the commissioner for economic plan, not the commissioner for finance, but commissioner for economic policy and economic planning in the Lagos State. So. Let us give the president the benefit of the doubt that this choice that he has made will be able to take Nigeria to where we need to be.
Well, let's believe that, like you said, let's believe that these appointments are based on merit and not necessarily on basis of favoritism, because it doesn't have to behave as it shouldn't make things look as if he's favoring his former colleagues or cronies and ethnic. From his ethnic affiliation.
But if you ask me, if you look at most of the appointments, if you look at most of the appointments that president had made so far, to me, those appointments look more like compensation, reward for the work they've done, and nothing more than, because most of the persons are not people that will say, oh, these persons have what it takes to drive.
Okay, sometimes top notch.
They are not top. They may be professionals in their own reckoning, but they are not. They don't have the requisite skills, in my own analysis, to take Nigeria to where we need to be.
Especially coming from a country where you have a lot of, eggheads abroad and within.
Yes.
I think that if positions such as governor of central bank, we should be looking at the best.
We should be looking at the best. It should have been better for me personally. It would have been better if the acting central bank governor, that is the man that was in the system, was a deputy to Emefiele, if he was promoted into this office, so that we'll have continuity.
Yeah, but I think the problem is that there appears to be some kind of mess in the system. You remember the other deputy, with the lady? $300 million scandal and all that. I think that the president may have seen that there is a complete mess in the system, so there will be a complete sweep. But whatever it is, we need somebody that will take us out of the wood.
Sure.
A lot of economic policies are required as governor of central bank. Fiscal planning, financial planning, and all that.
The Naira is falling like parts of cars.
And then we'll have so much borrowing from central bank.
Yes.
That story also trended today, and which has pushed Nigeria's debt to 75%. Is something that has a lot to do with, with borrowing from central bank and all that. Okay, let's look at the next story. Lawyer and former Director General of Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, Dr. Sam Amadi, has advised federal government to scrap the Nigerian law school because current reality has shown that the institution has outlived its usefulness. He also suggested ways in which the legal profession to be saved from moral disaster. According to him, the Nigerian Law School was established to provide practical knowledge for young lawyers, but no longer serving its purpose. Amadi, who is also the director of Abuja School of Social and Political Thought, made the recommendation at the 2023 endowment launch for Eba Boyi, an Igbo apprenticeship scheme by Igbo lawyers under the umbrella of O2 Oka, Uyu, Otiokiu, Abuja. I think it has to be Iba Boy, really.
Yes, Iba Boy.
Okay, yes. Present at the event were former Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Kano Agabi, Dr. Ben Obi, who represented Anambra Central in the National Assembly, senior lawyers of Igbo extraction, among others, while describing the Nigerian legal system as one of the most corrupt in the world. Madi maintained that the law school is a waste of time and resources, adding that it should be scrapped. I don't understand what he means, because law school is part of the continuous legal education. Every country, every legal institution that has some level of legal education has a way of, trying to ensure that professionals qualify. For example, accountants have ICANN and all that, and they have professional institutions that kind of mold the profession. If you remove law school, then it will be worse, because people will now be graduating from universities with little or nothing and then plunge into the legal market and then begin to mess up the legal system. Sometimes some of our people just wake up and they come with, that's my position, or you have your position, and wake up with some kind of brainwave that may not take us anywhere, because he has not been able to provide a better alternative. Now, will people now sit at home and write what looks like I can after graduating from school? Or don't we need that gathering of eggheads in the legal profession, for 1 year to mold the greenhorns from law school, from law faculties in Nigeria? I don't understand what he's talking about. As a journalist, I think I'm qualified to take a position.
Yes.
Yes.
Let me start by saying that it's only in this our profession, the journalism profession, that we don't have a body that when you graduate from school,
you go and do further certification.
Further certification before you begin to practice.
Yes.
Our profession has become more like a general all-commerce affair. As long as you can carry camera or carry a smartphone and snap picture, probably you get an appointment and then off you go. But back to what Dr. Madi was saying, I think that Dr. Madi is talking based on the fact that most of the people or most of the lawyers we have in the country today are no longer following the spirit of the law.
Okay.
They are now following the letters of the law.
Okay.
And you know that there is a difference between the letters of the law and the spirit of the law. The letters of the law is to give you an idea of what the spirit of the law is. If you take the letters of the law the way they are written down, and you interpret it exactly the way they are written down, you will get into problems, because you will see yourself being accused of not being morally upright. Because as a lawyer, you are supposed to know what is right and what is wrong. And even when you are interpreting the law, you are supposed to allow your morality also come into play while you are looking at the letters. Are
you talking about morality or natural justice? The principle of natural justice to come in.
Yes,
not morality per se.
Okay, principle of natural justice.
Because morality has no place in law.
That's what they told. That's what they tell us.
Yes.
But me, I know that we all know that for law to be law, it means that it should also be
have a human face.
Yes, it should have human face. It should also be for the good of the human being.
Exactly.
The law is made for human beings and not human beings for the law. So if the law says that you have to stay in darkness for 1 year, and then staying in darkness for 1 year will cost you your life, you will have to come out of darkness.
I think that in all, so that we can go on break, in all, what I see Dr. Amadi talk about is that there is need for a reform in legal education.
Absolutely.
That is what he will say, and Nigerians will listen. And then maybe look at law school again and see what can be done to make it, serve the purpose for which it was established.
Yes.
That call for a state of emergency to be looked into legal education and the need for a radical change from what is happening to go back to the original intention.
Yes.
If anybody says that, it makes sense. But to say scrap sounds too blunt and unrealistic as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, it may not be realistic at this point, but there is need for us to also look into our legal education. Because, in fact, let me say that the way Nigeria is going today, the ills that we have in the society today is simply because our legal system is not up and functional the way it ought to be.
Exactly.
If we function the way it ought to be. As of today, somebody can actually slap you or lay claim to your land or lay claim to your wife
Ask you to go to court.
And then ask you to go to court. And you go to court, the court will say, you have to prove that this wife you married her. Beyond all reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
And if you are not able to do that,
to the 26th of October at the Marriott Hotel Ikeja, Lagos, and be part of a game-changing experience. Content Hub is your destination for content acquisitions, aggregation, licensing, and distribution of both local and international programs across for broadcasters in Nigeria. For more inquiries, visit www.africast.com.ng. Content Hub, your easy and affordable access to quality and affordable content. Don't miss out. The Africast Content Hub, brought to you by the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, in collaboration with NIFS.
You're welcome back. It is still Atlantic Television Press Roundtable, and we're back to the second segment. Well, while behind the camera, we were talking about what Dr. Amadi said, and he said, and I concurred, and said, it was like pulling down your house because your roof is leaking. That's what it looks like. Let's look at the next stories that are trending. Troops of Operation Hand in Kai have arrested 12 suspected Boko Haram terrorists in Yobe State in its counter-insurgency operations in the northeast. Also recovered from the terrorists were 50 jerry cans of the premium motor spirit, popularly known as petrol, and automotive gas, oil known as diesel, as well as 3.1 million naira to get money. The Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, gave the indication on Thursday in a report on the ongoing military operations by the armed forces across the nation. Overall, troops of Operation Hand in Kai recovered 17 AK-47 rifles, 3 locally fabricated rifles, 3 locally made guns, 1 Beretta pistol, 3 Den guns, 116 rounds of 7.62 mm special ammo, 5 rounds of 7.60 mm NATO, 13 rounds of 9 mm amino, 20 rounds of 7.62 mm 5.4 ammo, and 42 empty cases of 7.2 mm and 54 ammo, 12 magazines, 4 jerry cans, 3 vehicles, 3 phones, 6 motorcycles, cutlasses, and what have you. All this, sometimes the military could be so pedantic, as it were, by looking at some of the details of what they have gotten to demonstrate their exploit and the fact that they have done very well. But it has a lot of stories to tell. For a journalist, every detail in that narrative is symbolic and speaks volume of what happens within the ranks of the terrorists. Some level of psychoanalysis of the way they operate. You can see they have a lot of money, 3.1 million naira. I'm excited about that.
That's the money that you can call a disposable income, because that's the money that's money they use to run their activities on.
So who is sponsoring terrorism? How do they get funded? These are some of the questions.
Well, I want to believe that the 50 jerry can, the jerry can of premium motor spirit that they have, all those things were also, if not looted, somebody must have supplied it. And these guys have been kidnapping and looting shops and what have you. They've been kidnapping and collecting ransom. So we can't be asking them where are they getting money from, because they've been kidnapping and collecting ransom.
Yeah.
They have also been looting people's farms, looting shops and what have you. So they have a lot of money around them. Then also, I also want to think that there are also a political undertone to it. Some of them are also working for some political interests, whereby those political interests also make some funds available to them. Because the kind of, we are talking about how many AK-47 rifles. AK-47 rifle is not something you buy across the counter. It's not something that that sells for between 100 and 200,000. It's something that is far more than that, and they have about multiples of them. And then they have fabricated guns, and they have all of those sophisticated weapons. And for people who is generally regarded as not being educated to have access to this type of weapons, it means that somebody somewhere who knows more about these weapons is helping them to run the show, as it were. So I think that while we want to commend the Operation Hiding Kai for what they have been able to do, I like to charge them to go deeper, be more serious. First, to purge themselves of saboteurs. That's among the military ranks. If you put yourself among saboteurs, you'll be able to get more information, get more intelligence, and then be able to swoop on these terrorists and then wipe them out of the Nigerian territory. But as it stands now, even what the Operation Hiding Kai has recovered so far, to me, it's not what compared to the damages they have done. Recently, we saw these guys ambush the Nigerian soldiers, and as much as 36 soldiers were killed. And the people who have the opportunity, who have the capacity to kill as much as 36 Nigerian soldiers, can be operating with a few AK-47 and Ding guns and Beretta Peso and what have you. You must have a lot of armory that is enough for them to be able to do what they have done. So I want Nigerian army and all the security apparatus in the country to go deeper into looking for how to cut down the activities of these bandits and terrorists, so that Nigeria can get back to its stand. Because what these guys are doing to Nigeria is actually costing Nigerians a lot. The food shortage that we have in this country today is because most of the farms have been taken over by these bandits. The issue, most of the things the lack of foreign investment into this country is simply because Nigeria looks unsafe to people outside, or even those of us who are Nigeria who live in this country. Many of us don't feel safe. I don't think I will be able to accept to travel from Abuja to Kaduna by road. I don't think I'll be able to accept to do that. Before now, I used to like Sokoto State so much. I used to dream that one day I will go and live in Sokoto. But with the way things are going now, I don't think
Northeast and Northwest are not safe.
Yes, the way things are going now, I don't think I desire to be anywhere around Northeast or Northwestern part of Nigeria. And that is a minus.
Another thing that worthy of commentary is the word army arrest to have suspected. That should have been army captures, because they are terrorists, they are bandits, they are armed. And it was a kinetic exercise, so it should have been captured. And after capturing them, what do they do with them?
Well, I think the military will always...
Because the idea of reintegration is what Nigeria should stop.
I think what our military high commands have been doing so far is to capture this person and try to reintegrate them into the society and things like that. Thereby making it look as if you commit if you commit acts of terrorism, you can actually be granted pardon. You can actually be let off the hook, and that is why some of these young men will not want to desist from getting involved in this type of thing. Assuming anybody that is captured or who is arrested for any act of terrorism
is executed,
is dealt with according to the law. If the law says the person should be killed, then so be it. But this one that you capture them and then you say you want to do de-radicalization, you want to do rehabilitation and what have you. You are simply telling those who have not gone into the woods to please go into the woods. If you want to benefit from this type of treatment, please go into the woods. You see a situation whereby those who are supposed to be treated as terrorists are given uniforms, housed in a very fine place, given choice food and choice wine to drink. Whereas the law-abiding citizens whose farms have been destroyed, the law-abiding citizens whose lives have been shattered, who have been made to be in the ID camps, they are watching and they're asking themselves, does it mean that we should go into the woods before we can benefit from government social welfare activity? So I think that the military high command should be able to do what is right. If anybody is arrested in connection with any act of terrorism, the person should go through the due process of law. If the person is found guilty, the law should take its course on that person.
And we should upgrade our law to a point where those who are involved in terrorist activities should be executed. I think that should be because terrorism is a very serious matter.
Yes,
insurrection against the state.
Yes. You know, a lot of Western countries, for instance, a lot of Western countries, even the church, the Catholic Church to be precise, is actually not in support of execution of anybody.
Okay.
Actually, they say, oh, the person should be committed to life imprisonment. And I think that if people are actually arrested for acts of terrorism and they are committed to life imprisonment, it will also go a long way to serve as a deterrent to anybody who wants to follow that route. Because a lot of persons believe that even if I'm arrested, nobody will kill me.
Okay.
And very soon I will come out, and then there is nothing else that will happen.
Let's look at this story. It's a very interesting one. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo has charged leaders at all levels to embrace democracy that promotes prosperity, poverty eradication, employment, and adequate security for the betterment of Nigeria. Obasanjo gave the charge in Oyo town on Friday, today, during the inauguration of rehabilitation of 34.8 kilometers of Oyo Iseyin Road. According to Obasanjo, a democracy that nurtured poverty, unemployment, and insecurity should be thrown overboard because it only characterized backwardness. He emphasized the importance of cultivating some specific crops that would distinguish Oyo State from others, noting that Oyo had been known as a cassava farming center. He urged the state to embrace the cultivation of one more major crop to enhance efforts at boosting food security in the state. Obasanjo stressed the importance of a good road networks and commended the foresight of Governor Seyi Makinde in the rehabilitation, reconstruction, and construction of roads linking the 5 zones in the state. He said that such projects will fast-track socio-economic development across the zones. He urged the people of Oyo State to support Governor Makinde's government in his efforts to develop the economy of the state. Obasanjo is talking, but do they understand when he said any democracy that does not nurture, poverty eradication and what have you, should be thrown overboard? Is he calling for a coup? What's he talking about?
No, I think that...
thrown overboard?
Yes. What he is talking about is that, it's unfortunately, what he's talking about, the average Nigerian politician today will not take that advice. Because see, Nigerian politicians thrive in impoverishing the people. So when the people are poor, the Nigerian politicians are able to do whatever they like, So when you lift people out of poverty, you will not see anybody who come and sing for you on the road. You will not see anybody who come and carry ballot boxes for you. You will not see anybody who will commit all sorts of atrocities.
Those that will share salt.
Nobody will collect salt from you anymore. So at that point, you will now begin to look at yourself as you are equal to every other citizen. But Nigerian politicians want to thrive in the fact that in the community they are the only cock that crows. So what Obasanjo is trying to talk about is saying is that any democracy that does not carry along with it poverty alleviation activities should be jettisoned, and let those who are occupying democratic office or those who are in the democratic institutions, let them do or carry on activities that enhances the livelihood of the people.
Being a retired general, when he says thrown overboard, people think about a coup. And what is happening within the West African and Central African sub-regions, many people may think that he's calling for a coup.
No, I don't think that is it.
I'm just speculating.
I think what he's saying is that just like the first story that we took on this program, the governor of Cross River State voting 5 billion to renovate governor's office in a state where the majority of the persons in the state are hungry. That's what Obasanjo is talking about. That if you invest that 5 billion in poverty alleviation in the state and you invest it correctly in that state, you will discover that by the time that money begins to yield the desired result, the state will be better for it.
Yes. Let's take the last story so that we will now round off, because all the stories are interconnected. Yes. They're all talking about the same thing, having the kind of democracy that will give us the necessary deliverables that will improve the lives of the average Nigerian. Now we're talking about debt management. The Debt Management Office has said Nigeria's total public debt hit 87.38 trillion at the end of the second quarter of 2023. The figure represents an increase of 75.29% of 37.53 trillion naira compared to 49.85 trillion recorded at the end of March 2023. The Debt Management Office, in a report on Thursday, said the debt includes 22.71 trillion naira ways and means advances of the Central Bank of Nigeria to the federal government. Ways and means advances. The DMO stated Nigeria's total public debt stock as at June 30, 2023 was 87.38 trillion. It's $113.42 billion, not small money. It comprises of debts which include external and internal borrowing you know. And the major addition to the public debt stock was the inclusion of 22.712 trillion scrutinized federal government's ways and means advances. And that is the culprit.
That is it.
The statement also noted that the other additions to the debt stock were new borrowings by the federal government and the subnationals from local and external sources. That's the main thing. Local and external sources. Ways and means. These are the sources of this aberration that we're talking about.
Well, I think that is particularly that issue of ways and means. For me, that's a sign of a government that not know how to manage economy and generate income for itself. Just go to the central bank. For those of us, for many of our viewers who don't know what ways and means actually mean, it just means just go and print money, just printing of money. That's what it means.
Yes, go to central bank and get money.
Just go and print money and bring. That's just it.
It may not be backed up by gold.
It may just print it and bring, and we'll use it, no problem. But then you know that money is something that there has to be a service given before money can be
productivity.
There has to be a productivity before money can be generated. So when you begin to print money, what you're simply doing is you are causing inflation. You are trying to give people money for doing no job. So I think that it's a challenge on this current administration of President Bola Tinubu to begin to think of how to reverse this ugly trend. Because so long as we continue to owe both within and outside, it will continue to eat into our revenue because you have to service those debts. You have to service them. And you also have to provide the infrastructure. You have to provide the social amenity. You have to also pay workers and what have you. So when you
and you have to have the foreign reserve.
And you have to have foreign reserve because the more foreign reserve you have, the better your chances of having the foreign direct investment that we're even talking about. So it's actually a very big challenge for the current administration. And for this report to be coming out 100 days into the new administration is a sign that the current administration has continued from where the immediate past administration stopped. That is borrowing spree and what have you. I thought that by now, issues of borrowing would have been stemmed.
Even through ways and means.
Yes.
Because that is the backhand way, the black market way of borrowing.
Yes.
It's through ways and means.
So I think by now, those unhealthy practices should have been stemmed by now. Maybe we'll just keep them at a standstill. Then we're not trying to see how we can move away from it. Because for you to stop any situation, if this roof is leaking, for instance, you want to stop it, the first thing you will do is to go and see whether you can maybe cover the up where it is leaking from. Then you now begin to mop the floor that had been soiled by water that came from the roof. So far, if after 100 days in office, our debt management office is coming out to say that our debt has actually
risen 75%.
75%. It means that nothing has been done so far to stop the borrowing spree initiated by the immediate past administration. And that is a worrisome dimension. Because part of the difficulty that we're having in this country is because the country has actually borrowed to the point that it's almost impossible for any responsible financial institution to get into any loan agreement with the federal government of Nigeria because of the high debt profile that we operate. So I want to challenge the current administration, or the current both the governors and the local government, let them put on their thinking cap and see how this ugly trend can be reversed. Because if that is not reversed, Nigerians will pay dearly for it.
Well, thank you very much. That's as much we can take. We need to manage our finances very well. And whatever we are doing must be backed up by productivity. The president promised that the GDP was going to be up by 8%. And by now, we expect the government to up the ante in terms of encouraging productivity. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much, Kingsley, for coming. Kingsley
thank you very much.
Is a colleague down the road of Radio Nigeria, Port Harcourt. Well, you're welcome.
Thank you.
And you also, thank you very much there for tuning in on Atlantic Television Network, Press Roundtable. Monday is another day to begin a new cycle of ATM Press Roundtable. Well, don't forget to tune out, to join us always on our social media platforms. They are there on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and even our app. Website is also there. But don't forget the Global Roundup. That's our 9 p.m. bulletin. It will be coming up shortly after this program at 9. And peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Don't forget, everything you do must be a building block of peace so that peace will continue to prevail. And remember, peace is not the absence of war. There could be what you call the peace of the graveyard. My name is Baon Woke. Stay tuned. Don't get away. Other programs are on the trail.